life does truly at times pose circumstances that take you off your course, and hope deferred truly does make the heart sick in many ways. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's a bunch of different things. But God is always present. He's a loving Father, and desires fulfilled are a tree of life. We always kind of dwell on the hope deferred makes the heart sick part of that verse. But the coin has a flip side, and the coin basically tells you that when desires are fulfilled, it produces a tree of life.
Welcome, awesome authors. You are listening to the Answering the Call to Write podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Farndale, and this episode is brought to you by Paper Crown Media. Hello, awesome authors, and welcome to this episode of Answering the Call to Write. Today, I have the amazing Bruce Cross with me, who's going to share with us a little bit more about his latest publishing project, his ebook called Solitary Refinement. But before we jump into the details, I would just love to introduce you to one of my very good friends. So Bruce and I met when we both signed up to a mentoring program where we learned how to write and publish our books. And we share a love for writing, obviously, but also we have a favorite author in common, which is John Aldrich. So I immediately connected with Bruce and his love for writing. And Bruce is also a prolific blogger. He writes beautifully about so many different life relating topics. So I do encourage everyone listening today to go and check out his website, www.brucercross.com. I'll put the link in the description for you to go and check it out. Bruce is an amazing writer. So Bruce, thank you so much for being with me. It's great to have you on the episode.
It's a pleasure just to connect this way.
Yes. So tell us a little bit more about you. Where are you from? And a little bit about your family.
Well, those of the people that know me closely will probably say I'm not wrapped too tight, but that's the way it goes. I reside in central Pennsylvania, in between Hershey Chocolate and the Lancaster region. Have done so for the past 10 years and have been a native Pennsylvanian all my life, originally from the Pittsburgh area. I've been married to Jackie. It'll be 47 years coming up in a few days. And we have three daughters, grown daughters who are married and have families of their own. One lives in the UK, one resides locally, and one in the North Carolina region. Have come to know the Lord this coming Columbus Day, which is October 12th in the United States. Will be 50 years of discovering who Jesus is, and it's just been a wild pleasure of my life to have him as the center of my focus, and just enjoying all that comes with that. So.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about where your love for writing began, because you are a prolific writer. You are so good with words, and you have such an incredible way of setting a scene and drawing analogy out of everyday life happenings. So where did it begin? When did you decide to start your blog, and where did this love of writing begin?
I'll tell you, growing up as a young child, I hated reading. Like, I don't even think I read a book until I was in eighth grade, and that was probably because it was forced on me to do so. It might sound kind of silly in some respects, but I actually have a blog post called Play Ball that I wrote years ago, and it depicts a time in my life where I was very integrated into sports, particularly baseball. And due to some just circumstances, I gave it up cold turkey, and it was a day that a dream in my life of becoming a big league ball player died. I mean, I just literally walked away from it, made a decision because I felt that I had to obtain a part-time job heading into college to support, those endeavors and whatnot. And quite honestly, it's something that came back years later, and I felt a dream died. But growing up in the mid 70s, I don't know if you're familiar with the Waltons television show.
Yeah.
John Boy was the eldest child in the family, and it depicted the life of Earl Hamner, who was the John Boy character. And I just simply loved the show. One of the reasons I did so because it was date night with my grandma, who resided in the same household, and every Thursday night we would be there watching the Waltons and reminiscing and whatnot. But there was a seed deposited at that point in time. Just John Boy wrote his thoughts out at the end of each show, and I got carried away with just the narrative that he was um, portraying for whatever was going on in a particular episode, and I just started to kind of identify with his calling in life, and it became my own. And I decided, I guess it was probably around 12 years ago, to start informally blogging, and then more recently just doing it. Was inconsistent for a while, but still kept plugging away, and life has its way of what would I say, taking over at times.
Yeah.
But I feel when I sit down and write, it's like I'm on vacation somewhere, where it's just me and the Lord and whatever thoughts He's putting in me, and I just simply treasure that. And I will say that I lost touch with it for a little bit, and but now I'm kind of going full circle back, and there's a purpose in the writing, so
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that dream that you had to, play baseball as a little kid and how life kind of redirected your path a little bit. And we keep making choices sometimes in life where we put away those dreams that we have in our heart to do something that maybe seems more responsible. And often it is our dreams that kind of take the back seat. And it's hard sometimes to find that place of courage to go back and to pursue those dreams that God has planted in our heart. And I love that your message, your core message that's written on your heart is so linked to Proverbs 12:13, or is it 13:12? I always mix them up.
1312.
13:12, where it talks about hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a dream fulfilled is a tree of life. And I know you embody that message, you live that message. So tell me a little bit about your own experience of hope deferred. I know you share in your chapter solitary refinement, and we'll dig into that a little bit more in a minute. But what would you say to someone who's feeling like that hope of living that dream, that it just seems out of reach and they have lost hope? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I'm going to step back a little bit just in terms of where I realized that I had a dream that died, that I didn't even know that it died. We were getting some marriage counseling at one point in time, traveling about 80 miles to go to the sessions that we were partaking in. And there was a couple of people, a married couple, that were kind of involved from a point where they were, I don't want to call apprenticing, but they were they were in the room as well. And it was my turn to be on the quote hot seat that night. And the counselor started probing and prying a little bit with me. And I didn't truly know how to answer them. And he had asked the question, uh, what what was close to your heart that you might have had to give up or something to that effect? And I didn't know how to really identify it. And all of a sudden, the image of me standing outside of a baseball stadium looking onto what I thought I wanted to do and then turning my back and doing it, it was like a two by four hit me in the head. I recall getting so choked up that it was hard to even breathe. And like I lived in ate and slept baseball growing up as a young kid, and this all of a sudden just had to put it off to the side. And it might sound silly, and but dreams are dreams, and no matter how ridiculous they might sound to someone else, they're your dreams. And sometimes life has a way of interrupting certain aspects of what you think you might want to do instead of what you are called to do.
Yeah.
But I would talk to somebody, just in terms of the chapter for the Paper Crowns book. I mentioned um, the not the possibility, but the reality of having a virus inside of me that I did not even realize existed. I had worked for a church for a long period of time, and basically that job was dissolved because there were some political things happening in the church, and I loved that particular role that I was in. And 9 years after the fact, I'm sitting in a John Eldridge retreat, and all of a sudden, with no formal announcement or anything, just the image, the Lord started talking to me. He said, it mattered to me. I wasn't even thinking about it. And I said, what mattered to you? He said, the day that you lost your job under those unforeseen circumstances mattered to me. And this was probably 9 years prior.
Wow.
Actually, it was 21 years prior, um, because this happened in 1989, and this was 2009, roughly,
Right.
when the dream occurred. And it was a sense of validation that God never lost sight of what was going on and the person that he created me to be. And he redeemed what was a very painful um, part of my existence. And sometimes even now, I still reflect on it where it tries to impact me negatively. And hope deferred, I would just tell someone that if I was sitting across the table having coffee with you, um, life does truly at times pose circumstances that take you off your course, and hope deferred truly does make the heart sick in many ways. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's a bunch of different things.
Mm.
But God is always present. He's a loving Father, and desires fulfilled are a tree of life. We always kind of dwell on the hope deferred makes the heart sick part of that verse,
Mm.
but the coin has a flip side, and the coin basically tells you that when desires are fulfilled, it produces a tree of life. So
Yeah.
that's what I'd kind of say to somebody that's going through those kind of circumstances.
Awesome. So, Bruce, you titled your chapter Solitary Refinement. Do you just want to explain a little bit more around that concept of solitary refinement? Because there's a solitary element to it, which is, feeling alone, feeling isolated, feeling hopeless. And then the refinement aspect, and how God uses that in that season of isolation. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that at times, you go through circumstances in life and you feel boxed in and the walls are closing in on you and those sorts of things, and you feel confined. Uh, and it's sort of a way where if you don't have your guard up, you can start thinking negatively about whatever is going on in your world. For example, in my life, I have experienced job-related circumstances in a number of venues, probably every decade of my life. Actually, when I was in my 20s, I made a naive mistake and quit a job when I didn't have one to go to. In my 30s, I lost the job at the church. In my 40s, I was working for a healthcare institution and basically was reorganized to another division that I had absolutely no training for, and it was very frustrating. In my 50s, I was working for a company that was doing very well, hired new management, and it became the Titanic within a few years. And they basically folded up, and I lost my employment. And with respect to the COVID vaccine, we should each have our own choice, but I was served a mandate at the employer that I was working for, and I did not comply with that mandate of getting the vaccine shots, and I lost my employment. That was almost 4 years ago. And so through the process, you go through the ups and downs and in-betweens of the emotional aspect of that, the rubber hitting the road aspect of it is how this is impacting you financially or relationally and those sorts of things. And if you don't watch, and in particular, there have been times in my life where that I've let my guard down a little. It can feel like the Lord's lost sight of you. He doesn't care, those sorts of things. Um, and in the process, with respect to the job at the church that I elaborate on in the chapter that I wrote, um, it's for my betterment. And I've said, I believe I said in the chapter as well as just said it out loud multiple times that if I had the choice to have those circumstances repeat themselves, I would do it all over again for the lessons that I've learned because God has used them in the refining process of me, creating me to be more conformed to the image of his son, to keep my eyes on him where I have not lost track of who he is in my life. It really reflects, I believe this is Psalm 34. I was thinking about this earlier this morning, but I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will continually be on my lips. My soul will make its boast in the Lord. The humble will hear and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. For I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and he delivered me from all my fears. And no matter what the circumstances, I would just encourage someone to just realize that in the process of going through the stuff of life, uh, God is present, particularly if you acknowledge him to be, and he cares and he has his purposes. And much like a potter fashions clay, he's fashioning us. I know he's fashioned me, and I'll say that there have been episodes of tears and frustration and all these sorts of things. But he's never lost sight of where I'm at and what he wants to do. And just as Joseph in the Old Testament was hidden away for 17 years, I believe it was, or Moses was taken to the backside of the desert. Um, God has his way of getting us isolated and refining us in the process of the trials of life. When we're as new Christians, somehow we get this idea that we've accepted the Lord. He's involved himself in our life, and it's
Yeah.
all going to be rosy. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. Uh, he simply said, I'll be with you.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
So, what I love about your story, Bruce, is that you have kept coming back to that dream in your heart to write and share your voice, even though you've had all these different events that played out in your life. It could have really silenced your voice. It could have really made you retreat and not share your story. So, I think it's just amazing that you found that courage to share your journey. I know that there are so many people that will resonate with your story and experiencing disappointment after disappointment, and yet still holding on to the truth that God has given you something valuable to share with others. Um, there is an analogy you share in your book that I love about that concert and the music that's in you. And you use the example of Celine Dion and Josh Groban coming together at this concert. And you explain it so beautifully. I feel like I'm right there with you, sitting and waiting for these performers to come out and sing their song. And then when they start singing, you can't hear anything. Um, and I think that's such a beautiful analogy of what happens when, we don't recognize that gift that God's given us and we decide to listen to the disappointment and we don't take the courage to actually share what God has given us and share our stories with the world, share our voices. Do you want to speak a bit more about that?
yeah, I just have to, first of all, while we're even just recalling that a little bit, have to really um, just express gratefulness and thankfulness to my wife, Jackie, because over the years she has walked this journey with me, and it has not been fun at times. But she's always encouraged me to write, and God has a message that He has to speak through me. I'm discovering it. I'm not there yet, but I'm discovering it, and it'll be an ongoing process. But with respect to, the analogy that I wrote in the chapter, it's really about, most people love music in one way, shape, or form, whether it's going to the symphony or to hear a concert. And you're there and you expect to have a performance that you'll always remember, particularly if you're going with your spouse or a loved one. And you're waiting for the song to come forth from the singer's voices, and it just doesn't happen. And it's one of these things where your expectation level is sky high, but the reality is basement dwelling, simply because what you thought was going to happen and what did happen are two different things. And it parallels our life. One can just say that they're going down a given course, and all of a sudden, whether through circumstances or mishaps or whatever the case might be, life doesn't turn out like we thought it would turn out, and we're faced with a choice of singing our song or letting the music die within inside of you. I believe in the chapter I quote Oliver Wendell Holmes, and I, off the top of my head, just can't recall the specific words of it. But essentially, we have a choice that we need to make. Are we going to let the music inside of our lives die, or are we going to let the music to be expressed to the point where um, it's not so much for our benefit, but it's for the benefit of others? Because I can guarantee you that whatever you're facing, there's somebody else in your circle or will be somebody else in your circle that is experiencing that. And actually, that particular um, analogy just it just came out of me at one point. You know, I don't even follow Josh Groban and Celine Dion except for a few songs, but um, you know, I can imagine being at Carnegie Hall and wanting to hear what was going to be expressed and not hearing it when you expect that in someone's life and you're just wondering why, what happened that did it. And quite honestly, you're in the UK and the story of Susan Boyle uh, just really resonates with me there. You know, she was made fun of by judges in the Britain's Got Talent
Yeah.
um, episodes, and she just had a dream. She wanted to sing, and no matter how much they made fun of her, um, she had the opportunity at one point, and they were simply blown away. I mean, they were just simply blown away. I watch a couple of the videos of that experience every now and then. It's a good medicine prescription if you're feeling kind of low and your dream isn't being fulfilled. But God's good and He allowed certain things to happen. And I would say to the person hearing this, you have a dream, make it His dream, and uh, and allow His dreams for you to come forth as He has fashioned them to be.
That's awesome. That's awesome advice, Bruce. So, this is the Answering the Call to Write podcast, and we have a lot of listeners who are interested in writing and sharing their story. So, if you could give them a piece of advice, what would you say?
Well, I would say, first of all, you know, you might be tempted to think, what's my story and what does it really matter to anyone? I would say I'd turn off the uh, the dial inside of your head that uh, basically says you don't have anything to say or what you have going on. It really isn't worth the time of day to anybody. I would just say, first of all, get in a relationship with Jesus because He's going to be the one that's going to be the author and finisher of your faith. And what you have to say truly does matter because it matters to Him. Just as I portrayed in the chapter that I wrote out of the clear blue 21 years after the fact, He's telling me it mattered to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It mattered when you lost your employment at the church. And I don't write specifically about that, but it's triggered me enough to want to express the things that have gone on in my life. And it truly is, I think, it resonates with people when we're real, when we get down, and not that we're having a pity party, but when we address the things of our life and put it in such a way where they can be of benefit or use to somebody, you just never know who's going to read something that you wrote um, that matters. And I'm reading one of the books from one of the authors from Paper Crown right now, and I read something yesterday just totally just blew me away. I just could not even imagine the circumstances that this person went through, which were heavy duty kinds of things. But there's somebody that is going to read that, that it's going to resonate with, and it's going to make a difference in their life, or at least to the point it gives them a different thought pattern, because our thought patterns are really the things that probably plague us or affect us most, just in terms of expressing our thoughts to the place where we can be of benefit to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my question to you, if you're listening to this podcast today, is what is the music in you that needs to be expressed? What is that dream in your heart that's not yet fulfilled? God wants to partner with you to help you bring that out into the world because it matters to Him and it matters to someone else who needs that light inside you. So, if that's you, I do invite you to come and join the Paper Crown Media family. There'll be details of how you can do that in the description of this episode. So do come and check us out. We are here to help you and support you, to help you craft that message and get it out into the world. I also want to say thank you to Bruce for sharing his amazing experience and wisdom with us. Bruce, thank you. It's such a brave thing to share your heart and to share your experience and your stories with others. So I just commend you for being on this journey, for staying faithful, for sharing your story and sharing the music that's in you.
I appreciate that, but I have to just circle back to just say that it's just truly a blessing to be a part of this writing community and getting to know people on a week by week basis. And I would invite you to check us out.
Awesome. For anybody who wants to read Bruce's story, you can download a free copy of his chapter from the Paper Crowns Volume 2 anthology. The link is in the description as usual, and we will also send that link out in our email to everybody. Feel free to download a copy. You'll get connected with Bruce directly. You can also download a copy directly from his website, www.brucercross.com. I'll put the link in the description. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and for listening. It has been amazing. Thank you, Bruce, and we will see you again, same time, same place next week. Bye.